Whenever you're sparring, do you ever feel like, nervous, or you're just like not sure what to do? Your opponent maybe is super aggressive. He's hitting you, he's tagging you, or you're just like standing in front of somebody and you don't know what to do. Should I punch? Should I defend? Should I move? What do I do when somebody's in front of me? So in this video, we're going to break it down and simplify sparring. Sparring's not that hard, guys, and there's some little tricks and tips that will make it easier so that you land more shots and you get hit less. So let's go right into it. The first thing you want to think about when you're sparring is really how you line yourself up with your opponent, right? So if Bob's my opponent here, I want to make sure that I properly square myself up with my opponent. And there's a lot of factors that you want to think about when you first square up with somebody, right? The first thing you want to think about, I always like to break things down from the bottom up, right? As far as the footwork, what the feet are doing. If you notice, I have this line here on the floor, and I talk about this in most videos when we talk about stance and footwork. I've got heel toe alignment. It means my toe and heel are on this line. This gives me good balance side to side, right? It allows me to be able to rotate. A lot of the advantages to having both feet on either side of that line as opposed to being in more of a side stance. So with this being said, typically, your opponent is also going to be on this line, right? So if you're my opponent, right, I'm going to turn my back towards you guys, right? Then your opponent also will be on the same line that you are, because you guys are going to be toe-to-toe. You guys will be lined up with each other. Now, if you happen to be in what they call an open stance, right, like Bob here, he's got his left side forward, right, left side forward. But if I have my right side forward, ideally, I want my front foot on the outside of his lead foot, right, outside of his front foot. This allows me to line up my rear shots. And in general, I want to always be working towards the outside of my opponent's lead arm or his lead leg, right? Typically, if you can get to the outside of their rear arm or rear leg, that's fine too. It typically is just harder to get to though. But in terms of lining up with your opponent, you kind of want to line up in such a way that you're a little bit more on the outside. Even if we are matching in our position, I kind of want to be a little bit off axis for him if I can, right? A lot of times he's going to see that and he's going to adjust to that. But I just want to cover that in terms of how you line up. Most often, you guys are going to be on the same line. You're going to be toe-to-toe on the same line in terms of sparring. But if you're in more that open stance where they're southpaw and you're orthodox or vice versa, then ideally you want your front foot slightly lined up on the outside of their front foot, right? That ideally, I want to be, if we're on this line here, right now we're toe-to-toe, but I want to move this foot a little bit on the outside. It's sneakily, right? You got to be very careful. If it's too much, then he'll notice and he'll adjust to you. Okay. So that's in terms of what your feet are doing. Again, you always want to be more on the outside of his lead side, no matter what stance you're in. So same thing as applying to the hands, right? When I'm sparring, especially it depends on what you're doing, whether you're boxing, kickboxing, or doing MMA, I'm going to talk about it from an MMA and a kickboxing standpoint. Generally, when you're sparring for MMA and kickboxing, you're going to be more at kicking range, right? It means that you're going to be more exposed to kicks. The fight happens at a longer distance. Boxing is going to happen a little bit closer distance because you're mostly punching, right? Your distance is going to be a little bit closer. But from a kicking standpoint, I'm going to be a little bit further out in terms of how I line up with my opponent because I have to worry about kicks, and he has to worry about kicks and takedowns and things like that. So I say that because my hands also need to be what? A little bit further out, typically, right? If I take more of a boxing approach and I have more of a nice tight guard here, more of as a boxer, and I'm doing MMA or kickboxing, guess what's going to happen, right? He's going to leg kick me right here because I'm very heavy on my legs, right? Very heavy. He's going to leg kick me right here. Also, there's nothing stopping him from coming forward, right? If I face you guys here and I've got this nice tight guard, there's nothing in the way between my arms and you, right? Essentially, maybe my front leg, if I can get a kick up to stop you from coming in. But somebody who's got a really tight guard here, if he's got a really tight guard, there's nothing to stop me from just rushing in and bum rushing him a little bit, okay? So alternative to that is extending your hands out with more of a longer guard, okay? More of a longer guard, because this now creates a what? A lead hand barrier and a rear hand barrier. So now for him to hit me in the face, he's got to get through my lead hand and my rear hand. Both of those give me an opportunity to intercept or stop an attack before it gets to my face. The reason that's important is because it's easier to intercept or stop an attack closer to the point of initiation, right? So if he's punching me with his lead arm here, it's easy for me to stop it here than wait for it to get to my face and try to catch it, right? Or try to stop it. Certainly you can do that and you can block it, but I don't really want to block it from here. It's a much, you're much more, you can be much more at a disadvantage, right? If I wait for the punch to get all the way to me. That is a last resort, and I will if I have to so I don't get hit. But typically for me, that's not my primary place I want to stop a punch. I'd rather stop a punch out here before he gets to me, right? I'd rather stop the punch in enemy territory, right? Than wait for him to get to my territory, get to my space, and try to stop the punch here. Now that can be part of your fight strategy, and that's fine if you want to do that, right? There's ways you can do that because as he comes in to punch, maybe you do more destroying, right? You bring it to the elbow, you destroy, you hit, you smash, you hit, you strike the strike. If he's punching, I hit his punch, right? That's a little bit more advanced. Generally, you want to stop an attack. It's just like war, right? You'd rather fight on his homeland than have the battle occur on yours, right? So I'd rather the fight happen over here where I'm dealing with his attacks here than instead of waiting for him to come to me and trying to deal with them at that point. And now maybe I'm getting bombarded and I'm trying to block and defend or move and it's overwhelming. So try to stop attacks preemptively. So to do that, I want to line my arms up. I mentioned this kind of longer guard. We call it a spear in Yobe, but I'm extending my arms out a little bit further, right? So that way when something comes in, notice I'm opening up my sensor a little bit because I think about fighting, if we're talking punches right now, in terms of a multiple choice test, right? So for example, punches pretty much are going to come from 3 different angles, right? I got a straight, okay? They're going to come straight down the straight line here, or they're going to come on a curved line, right? Circular, right? Either I call A or C, okay? So I've got A, B, and C as far as multiple choice question. Each one you're going to block a little bit differently, right? B, that straight down the center, I'm going to block here. If it's coming around this angle, I'm going to block here. The other angle, I'm going to block here. So a multiple choice test, A, B, or C, which one do you choose? What we want to do is align our hands in such a way that we minimize the options for our opponent. So if I have both of my hands on B, guess what? He's going to be attacking me at A and at C. That's going to suck because now I'm trying to guess which one he does, and then he's going to hit me at B, right? So instead, what I want to do is I want to hold my arms over here at, I can't remember which one I said was A or C, but I want to hold my hands at A and C, so that way all I have to worry about is B. Can he still attack me at A and C? Absolutely, right? But he's less likely to because I'm defending those posts. And so you always want to tell your opponent where to hit you, right? It's easier to defend if you give your opponent the opening. You tell him where to hit you. You say, hey, hit me in the face, right? And so you have an idea of where he's going to try to attack, which is going to help you to be able to defend that. Whether you want to parry it, which I do recommend utilizing parries. Parries are always better than straight guards like this, right? Straight, blocks like this, unless you're using your blocks to injure your opponent's limbs. But generally, parries are more preemptive, right? Because you're stopping it in advance, unless you're intercepting with your block, which you can do that too. Again, it's a little bit more advanced. That's different. You always want your defense to be your offense as well. So your defense should be a little more offensive. So parries move forward a little bit, right? You don't want to totally extend your arm because you're opening yourself up. But I do want to parry a little bit, keeping the chin tucked, shoulders slightly raised. Make sure, and this is some feedback from my student in Madagascar, Tomby, make sure you keep your chin tucked, right? Even if you're here, keeping your chin tucked and keeping this on the outside. This is just one way to hold your hands, right? I like to hold my hands here because I like to solicit those straight line attacks. The other thing that this does, especially if you're the smaller fighter, is that it keeps a bigger guy a little bit at range, right? Which you want to do. A bigger guy, you don't really want him to get in close on you. So this keeps him a little bit more at distance, and it motivates him to throw more straight line attacks, which is what I want him to do, because straight line attacks are what? They're longer. And if they're longer, what does that mean? That means he's going to be typically doing them from a longer distance. What does that mean if he's doing them from a longer distance? That means I have more time to see it coming. It's hard to see a punch coming when you're right here. Boom, it's gonna hit you, right? But out here, you have time to see that punch coming, right? And so I want to maintain that longer range so that gives me time to deal with that punch in a more effective manner. So that's one way to hold your hands. Again, you will want to modify. You don't want to just do this the entire match. You do need to change it up. Sometimes you will. Maybe I do want him to come in and do different things, right? Eventually, he may try to figure out a way around your guard here. But this is generally a good guard for most MMA kind of kickboxing type of things, right? And again, notice where my hand is. When I say line it up, I want to make sure my hand's lined up. If I'm just stepping forward here, my hand's lined up on the outside of his. That's what I want. I don't want my hands here, right? Even if I got a long guard, I don't want my hands here where now his hand's on the outside of mine, because this gives him more control to be able to move my arm and parry it. Also, if he's throwing a hook shot here, it's going to be hard to defend that with my hands so close to the inside. So this is what I was emailing my student Tomby about having your hands too close to the center. A lot of people, when they fight and when they're first learning, their hands are here. They're very close to their center, very close to their jet or their center line here. I don't want you to fight from here because, again, this opens up line A and C, okay? So that it's very difficult. The other thing I don't want you to do is I don't want you to have your hands so close to your body, because even if I'm here at A and C, my hands are too close to my body. A punch is going to blast right through this and hit me in the face. I need to extend my arms out because now they're stronger. Now, notice when I extend my arms out, what does I do with my shoulders? I'm also extending my shoulders forward too, because you can do this on a heavy bag, but it's almost like you're throwing a punch, right? You're extending your shoulder, okay? If you don't extend your shoulder here, it's not going to be as strong. But I extend the shoulder and I connect that to the rest of my back, and then my arms come up here, right? And this is basically what's happening. This angle here is really what I want. I don't want it completely 90 because now I'm pointing straight up here. I want to angle it a little bit towards my opponent and then having my arms, so my palms are more forward because I want to be able to check, right? So the other aspect to that, so that's your basic fighting position. And then remember, Tommy, just to keep your chin tucked, okay? I'm talking to you guys watching on YouTube, but also I'm talking to my student. Keep the chin tucked. Sometimes when you're sparring, your chin is up and you're up here like this. Next thing, movement, right? Movement when you're sparring. One of the things I like to do is crowd my opponent's space. Generally, you always want to try to go forward when you're sparring. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes I'm sparring bigger guys and I really don't want to go forward and close that gap. And I'm using more circular movements to try to keep them off axis. Because when you're moving, it's a lot of times hard for your opponent to hit you. It's easier to hit a stationary target or a stationary opponent than it is an opponent who's kind of moving around a little bit and kind of shifty, right? So generally, you always, even with this posture here, you always want to be a little bit shifty, right? Okay, and kind of moving a little bit with that, right? Depending on what you are setting up. So when I'm here, my general movement is to go forward. Again, depends on your opponent. Bigger guys, I may be doing more circling unless I'm able to go forward. If my opponent is passive, meaning that he is either stationary or he's doing this kind of thing, he's kind of coming in and out, this to me is a little bit more passive, right? If he's more passive, then I'm going to go forward. If my opponent is aggressive and he's going forward a lot, especially if he's bigger and I can't overpower him, then I will have to circle a lot more. But if he's my size and he's going forward, then maybe sometimes I can match that force with force, or I can give him more force than what he's giving me. If you can't beat his force, then you need to circle. That's the kind of bottom line. But generally, ideally, what I like to do is, even from this open guard stance here, I would like to just step forward, inch forward, inch forward, inch forward. Because what happens is when you inch forward, that's going to necessitate an exchange. That's going to necessitate somebody's going to throw something. And when I think about striking, I break it down into this kind of concept. Generally, when you're striking, you want to be first and you want to be second. What that means is I really want to be the first one to throw something. I always want to be in an exchange. Ideally, I want to train myself to always be first. Even if I don't know what to do, right? I always want to give him something because you want to set the pace of the fight. If you don't set the pace of the fight and you let him set the pace and you are more, now you're the more passive one and you're just kind of responding and reacting to him, then you'll be at a disadvantage. It's the difference between reaction and action. The person who's on reaction, in other words, if I'm reacting to what he does, I'm going to be slower. The person who's acting, right, who's initiating, their action will be faster than someone who has to process what's happening and then decide on a response and then send that signal from the brain to the body to then react to whatever it is that the stimulus that you received. So I want to come forward a little bit, inch forward to initiate that strike to get in range. The closer I am, the harder it's going to be for him to see what's coming. But I don't want to be too close where he initiates first. So that's the first thing I want to do. With my initiation, though, I'm always trying to initiate off of a feint, typically. So even with my movement, because I notice some folks have, when they first learn how to spar, they have kind of this bouncy movement. They're very shifty and bouncy. I don't want you to burn out too much of your energy, right? Make sure all your movements are intentional, right? Everything's intentional, and typically I'm doing this more so through feints. So if I angle out to this side, that's because I want to hit on this angle, okay? And if I move my head here, I want to hit on the outside of that line. If I angle my head here, maybe I want to hit here. And I want to keep him guessing on where I want to hit. And as I move, yeah, I want to hit to this angle, but that also brings the shoulder closer for that rear punch. So there's a lot of, my point is, when you move, however you move, head movement or footwork, have a purpose of why you're doing it that way. And try to use it to deceive or feint your opponent. One of my instructors talks about fighting in this way, that you always want to think about how to disrupt your opponent's balance, confuse them, and cause pain. Pain, balance, and confusion. Those are the three things that you want to inflict on your opponent. Typically, fighting involves causing pain, right? But sometimes you don't have that option, or you can't, or maybe they're bigger than you are. In that case, you want to maybe try to disrupt their balance, right? You want to sweep them, throw them, take them to the ground. In other cases, you want to try to confuse them mentally. You want to attack their mind, and that's what feints and fakes do. So the first thing that I'm going to do before I even try to cause pain is I'm going to attack his mind. I'm going to attack his mind, and then I'm going to initiate. Then I will be first. Now, sometimes you're not always able to be first. If he happens to initiate and catches me off guard, if I can, I'm going to try to use that to my advantage. What that means is that if he's attacking, if he's punching, if I can do a block, if I can elbow that strike, elbow that strike, elbow that strike, or smash or hit, whatever I can do to damage his limb on the inbound, that's oftentimes what I want to do. If I can't damage the limb, or I don't feel like I can, I want to certainly be able to move my head off that line of attack. And then I want to be second. What being second means is that I want to come back as soon as possible. I want to come back as his punch. If he's punching, I want to come back as his punch is coming back to his face. In other words, I don't want to wait for him to come back to his defensive posture. If he throws a punch at me, right? If I throw a punch at him, Bob wants to hit me as my punch is coming back. Don't give me a chance to come back. And I do this a lot of times when folks are kicking me. When they throw that kick, bam, they throw the kick. Maybe I block it, maybe I move out of the way. As their leg is coming back, guess what? I'm kicking them somewhere. Boom, I'm kicking them. It doesn't matter. So because they're on one foot, they can't go anywhere. They can't go anywhere. Once they extend and as they recover, as they bring their leg back to their original position, that's when you want to attack, because they typically can't go anywhere and their defenses are not as able to be activated, right? They can't defend as easily. Okay, so that's being second. Next thing you want to think about is, and these are the last things, is of course disrupting your balance. Now a lot of times you can't do this in kickboxing, but you certainly in MMA. So sometimes that might be stepping on the foot. That might be creating sweeps. That might be doing any of those kind of things to disrupt their balance so that you can hit, so that you can do other things that you want to be able to do. But always think about, how do I disrupt their balance? And then lastly, you want to always think about angling. So whether you are first, or whether you destroy, crash, and then you're second, or you slip and you're second, or you bob and weave and you're second, or you move out of the way and you're second, you always want to think about angling from there, right? So if I'm attacking you guys, I don't want to just come here on a straight line, right? Maybe my initial attack will be on a straight line if I'm first, boom, but guess what? I'm going to start angling now. I'm going to start circling around, because guess what? I still want to get and stay on the outside of this lead arm and your lead leg. That's where I want to be, because it keeps me away from your rear tools for the most part. And so I'd rather be four limbs against two, as opposed to an even match where we're 4 limbs against 4 limbs, right? Essentially, right? Again, you got elbows, knees, headbutts. You got more than just 4, but just think about it from those terms. So those are some tips in terms of sparring, guys. If you just break it down in simplest terms like that, and if you, like when I square with somebody, it's geometry. I'm looking at lines and I'm looking at angles, okay? That's what I see. It's like the freaking Matrix, okay? But you see lines and angles. And so I see, okay, if I extend my arm, I'm going at this angle, at this line, which is the line that I want. So I'm gonna line my arm up that way. If I'm here, oh, okay, I got a straight line here, but now I gotta worry about him parrying or moving my arm out, because you're gonna be weaker the closer you are into center line like this. I know some martial arts like Wing Chun, they fight from, this position is very weak position to fight from here, because it's very easy to get pushed inside. That's just how the human body is structured, how the human body is made physically. It's physics. So when you're out here, you're gonna be stronger to move these things inward. Punching, you can punch from here, that's fine, but just understand, even punching from here, it's easier to move a punch on the inside if you're from there. But if that's just where you happen to be, you can certainly strike from here, but just be mindful of the disadvantages. So just break it down like that, guys. The biggest thing is when you first square it with somebody, just understand the different lines, angles, and things like that, directions where you want to go, and then those different principles, concepts that we talked about as far as feinting being first, destroying the limbs, being second on your attacks, disrupting their balance, and then taking the angles. Pain, confusion, and balance. This is Brother Rob from New African Martial Arts. Please subscribe to our channel. If you got something out of this video, subscribe, share this video. We'll see you in the next one. All right, so now we're getting some sparring footage here from one of our students here in Madagascar, off the coast of continental portion of Africa. So overall, good rounds. These are all very good rounds in sparring. They keep good control, nice light contact. A couple things I want you to focus on here. You're doing a good job here of not letting him get away with anything for free, right? If he attacks you, you come right back and attack him back, right? Which is good. You're not being passive, and that's kind of what I want. Just like we talked about being first, I kind of want you to be the first one to initiate as much as you can. All right, if you want to, so when you're sparring, you always want to set an intention, what you want to work on, okay? And so if you want to set up being second, right, if you want to work on particularly countering and being a counter striker, then you can work on that in your sparring, right? Generally speaking, I want you to try to initiate first on the exchanges, which you're doing a good job of. But then also when he attacks, you attack him back, right? You don't let him just get away with anything for free. So great job on that. But you see how your hands are so close to your body? It makes it easier for him just to walk forward on you. That's what I'm talking about. He can just walk in on you whenever he wants because your hands are so close. Here he's working the kicks, which is fine, but your hands are so close to your body that he can just walk in. But as you establish your kicks, that does help keep him at range, right? It does help keep them at range. But you want to use both your kicks and the hand position to keep your opponent at the range that you want him at, right? I see the gloves keep, coming off here, and gloves are having issues. And I noticed too, you guys aren't wearing shin guards. Got it, yeah. So that's fine, right? Just you guys are going lighter with the kicks, which is good. But certainly work. And then I think in later rounds you work on catching the kicks and things like that. Okay, which is always helpful. But here you're passive. Now you're waiting for him, right? You're waiting for him to go first. Okay, so just be cautious when you're doing that. And if you are going to wait for him to go first, start circling, right? Move your head. Don't be a stationary target. When you're a stationary target, it's easier for him to find you, right? He knows where you are, okay? Good job not letting him get away with anything, okay? Coming back with your own strikes, excellent, right? He punches, and then you're going to come right back, boom, good, okay? That was excellent. But yeah, the main thing is, okay, good job going to the body there, and then you set it up with a little bit of a feint, right? Looks like it went high then low, okay? Excellent. Yeah, biggest thing is just hand position, because your hands are so close to your center line and they're so close in towards your body. It's almost more of a boxing hand position, but your footwork is more for kicking, right? One thing on your footwork, you do bounce around a lot. You don't have to do that. If anything, the bouncing kind of it may tire you out, for one. Two, you're bouncing at the same rhythm, the same pattern. So it's easier for your opponent to time you because you're keeping the same pace with your bounce. The other thing is the bouncing is not really setting anything up. Sometimes people bounce because it helps set up their kicks and helps disguise their kicks, and that's fine if you're bouncing to disguise your kicks, right? But you're doing a lot of punching, and so off of the bounce, and so you don't really have to do that. If anything, you want all of your movement to be intentional, right? Don't just bounce for the sake of bouncing.
When I say intentional, I mean use your movement when you're at distance, like here. Use your movement to set up feints and fakes. So use your head movement, right? So here you can move your head offline, so you move the target instead of waiting for him. See how you're waiting for him? You're being passive. You're being a stationary target, which makes it easier for him to find you and to try to hit you, right? So don't be a stationary target. Don't just bounce in front of him, waiting for him to hit you. Right, good job coming back. Right, again, anytime you're second, that's good. That's what that's okay. It's good to be first, but if you can't be first, be second. Right, and don't let him get away with anything. Right, so you're hitting as he's coming back with something. So every time he engages, he knows there's a risk you're going to come back and counter. Okay. But see how you're standing right in front of him? Don't stand right in front of him, and your chin is slightly raised. So I want you to tuck your chin a lot more. Okay, don't just be kind of standing right there in front. See how he's moving his head now, and he's got some head movement. I kind of want you to have some head movement. He's dropping his hands, and he's moving his target. Hit the target being his head. Right. So you kind of want to set those things up. He realized you were passive, and so that allowed him to be able to do that. Okay. Passive means you were very reactive. You were reacting to what he did as opposed to being active and initiating and making him react to what you're doing and making him fight your game plan. So that's what being first allows you to do. When you're first, it forces your opponent to fight your game plan versus you fighting theirs. Again, but if you can't be first, you're doing a good job right now being second, but you are being passive and you're waiting for him. Okay, and the other thing you're doing is you're stopping your attack, right? So once you attack, then you'll stop, right? Typically, I will keep attacking until my opponent makes me stop, right? Like right there, right? He threw a punch and he maybe made you stop, right? And I know you guys are going light with the sparring, but generally you want to kind of keep attacking and make you stop, right? I will only typically stop unless when he punches back, or if I'm tired and I need to kind of catch a breath or something like that, right? But even when I stop, I don't back up. See how you stop and then you back up? You stop, then you back up, okay? You don't, and I know you guys don't have a lot of space out there, so that may be part of the reason why you're backing up, to give him room. But generally, you don't want to give up ground, right? You don't want to give up space for him to kind of take that ground back. So you kind of want to pressure him and take his space from him. You want to control the space, right? So you move forward, and then you guys back up. And again, it could be due because there's other people out there, and that's fine. There's other people sparring. You guys don't have the whole area. I understand that. But that's just something to be mindful of. So your hands are low. When your hands are low, it takes them longer to come back up to defend your head, which make it easier for them to hit you, right? And then when you do bring your hands up, because they're so close to your body and they're so close to the center line and they're low, when your hands come up, they may not get into position in time. Even if it blocks the strike, you're not in the ideal position and you're not strong in that defensive position, meaning that your hands are still on their way up and the punch may hit your hand, right? It may not hit you in the face. It may hit your hand, but because your hand didn't have enough time to get into the position fully, it'll be easier for your hand to be knocked away as he's punching, okay? Good job here, again, not letting him get away with anything. Throwing the kicks, like I said, I know you're not throwing full rotation in the kicks. That's fine because you guys don't have the shin guards on. Your hands are really close in, right? So this allows him just to walk forward on you. He's able to walk forward on you because your hands are so close to your body. You want to establish here that longer guard to keep him at bay, especially because he's more of an aggressive fighter. See how he's crowding your space and he's walking forward. He's walking you down, right? He's crowding your space, and he's doing this sometimes without even throwing a punch. He's just walking you down, right? He's just walking you down with his hands up just to take your space, and then he'll initiate when he's ready to initiate. So that's something you want to be mindful of as you're sparring, and not let him do that, right? So if you can move forward on him, then go ahead and move forward on him, right? But if you can't, then go ahead and utilize your circling. But right now you're a little bit more passive. You're stationary, even though you have some of the bounce movement going on. Here is where I would probably circle a little bit more, right? Start circling and then picking my shots, right? Good. Yep. So here you're here, you're waiting for him. Not bad. So he went passive that time. It allowed you to be able to take your shot. But yeah, I wouldn't stand and wait for him. If you are going to wait for him, go ahead and start circling and moving. So you make yourself not so much a stationary target. And again, a lot of it's going to be the same advice throughout the rounds, but this is where I'd be utilizing some feints and fakes. I'd be moving my head. Good job on the side kick there. Okay, good job trying to counter here off the punches. But as you're doing this, your hands are down, and so you are getting tagged with some of these shots. But even with the hands being down, not such a bad thing sometimes. But you want to be mindful where his hands are, right? So a lot of times I'll throw a punch, and my hands may be down, but I'm going to line my hand up to where his hands are. So that way, if he does punch, I'm at least able to see it and intercept it, and hopefully stop it from hitting me. Okay. So those are some kind of tips and things you want to think about. Good job kind of setting that up with the kick to your strike. But again, you gave him the space back. Maybe you didn't have to there. Okay. Yep. Not bad. Head kicks there. Some punches. Good job. Here you're keeping him at distance. Okay. That's good. Keep him at distance. It gives you more time to be able to intercept and see what he's doing, see what's coming. Okay. Excellent. Think about your footwork too. Like I mentioned with the bouncing, not just the bouncing, but typically you want to keep your rear heel up in the back, slightly raised in the back, which allows you to be able to push off. Good job circling. This is what I'm talking about, the circling movement. But you want to be able to circle and hit, right? You don't want to have to circle then stop and hit. See how you circle, stop, and then hit? Once you stop circling, then he knows that you're about to attack. See if you can keep circling and attack off of the circling footwork, right? Okay, good. I realize the kicks are a little bit lazy. See on the recovery there, a good fighter would have leg kicked you right there because your leg was very lazy coming back to your fighting position. Once you kick, be mindful of that. A good fighter, once you kick right there, they're going to kick you right back. They'll kick you right there after that kick, or they'll come back with their own punches. So it's just something to be mindful of, okay? A lot of the Thai fighters will do that, especially if you're not consciously bringing your foot back down quickly or bringing it back to recover quickly. But that may be a strategy you want to try too. Once they kick you, you go back and kick their standing leg, right? Kick them right there, okay? A leg kick, essentially, because they can't move, right? They're on one foot for that moment of time as they're bringing their leg back, okay? Just another strategy. But again, hands are low. You want to kind of keep them out. Establish more of a longer guard so he can't just walk in on you, okay? He's just able to walk you down right here. Walk you down, okay? And then circle. I would circle right here, okay? Don't stand in front of him. Go ahead and circle, okay? You can circle to your right, towards your, basically towards your right, towards his outside of his lead hand because he's a orthodox fighter. But overall, great job. With it, it's just those small things to work on. The more you can spar, the better. That's really the best, thing you can do for the most part as far as your training is kind of getting in there and sparring light and testing things out. But always spar with intention and focus on what you want to work on.
How many of you practice a martial art today? Who practices a martial art today? How many boys are practicing a martial art in your community today? Today. That's what I'm saying. We not ready to fight.
A man with my knowledge, what can you tell a man like me now? What's your suggestion? That's your question. Okay, you talking to me, not a dumb Negro or pork chop eater, don't know the truth. I'm free now. I woke up. Now, what are you going to tell me now? I done gave you my solution, some land of my own, doing something for myself like you, England, and America do. Now, I know you're not against the black man. I know you're not against me having my land, are you? I know you English done ruled and slaved forever for a long time. But do you still today don't want me to have my own country and build for myself and govern myself? Would you think that's bad if we thought like that?
The purpose of our organization is to start right here in Harlem, which has the largest concentration of people of African descent that exists anywhere on this earth. There are more Africans here in Harlem than exist in any city on the African continent, because that's what you and I are, Africans.
Well, young man, you first must be born again. God is a spirit.
No, I ain't born again. I ain't got to be born again. See, I was born in the new generation. Your mother could have brainwashed you, but can't nobody brainwash me. I'm ready.